If you're a registered nurse in Nigeria planning to practice in Canada, I'm sure by now you have surfed the internet, read different things, NNAS, WES, NMCN. You've heard a lot of things. You have gone through the internet, turned it upside down, ransacked it, and ended up more confused. Well, I'm here to help you clear that misinformation and the confusion so that you can better understand what this journey feels like when you have better information. Hi, if you're just joining, my name is Elizabeth. I am a registered nurse from Nigeria. So basically, I am a Nigerian trained registered nurse currently practicing in Canada. I've gone through the hoops, I've gone through the steps, so I can tell you about it. Okay? So I'm hoping that at the end of the day, this helps at least one or two people better understand what to do and what not to do. Let's get into it. Now, the first thing you need to understand, or the first thing you need to ensure as a registered nurse from Nigeria, is that your license is in good standing, unencumbered. You don't have any practicing issues on your license. That's the one thing you need to ensure. The next thing is you need to be sure that you have gathered your documents. Do not underestimate the time that it takes to gather your transcripts and other documents that is required for this process. You can control submitting, but you cannot control a few more things. The other thing I want to add is when you fill your forms in order to apply for your license verification from Nursing and Midwifery Council, if the form that you're filling is one that requires you to put pen to paper, ensure that you are writing as legibly as possible. Your date of birth is clearly written, your last name, your first name, middle name, as it is on your license, is clearly written. This is not the time to start writing calligraphically. Don't do that. If you can, write in block letters so that no alphabet or letters are missed as you enter your name, because these are one of the things that set you back 1,000 times over. When an error is made, it can be a very frustrating process to correct all these things. So make sure that you have all of that all sorted out. Now that that is out of the way, let's talk the provinces. I need you to also understand at this point in time that Canada does not have one nursing regulatory body as it is for us in Nigeria. In Nigeria, it is the Nursing and Midwifery Council that regulates all registered nurses. That means that with my license to practice in Lagos, I can use that same license to practice in Kano, Asaba, wherever it is within the Federation of Nigeria. Nothing else is required as long as that license is valid to practice. Okay, in Canada, it's not the same. Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories. That means that the province of Ontario has a different requirement from the province of Alberta, and that has a different requirement from the province of Saskatchewan, and the list goes on. British Columbia and all that. Okay? So that means that each province decides and has the authority to state what their requirements are for internationally educated nurses. Now, that province can tell you that I need you to go and do a bridging program, I need you to do a transition to practice, or I need you to go and challenge the NCLEX. Different provinces, different requirements. But in order to get to that point, you need an assessor. What do I call an assessor? You need NNAS, WES, ICAS, or whatever regulatory body you have used in verifying your education. Now, NNAS is the National Nursing Assessment Services, and WES is Worldwide Education Services, alongside ICAS and ICES, all these other bodies. They all have different ways of evaluating, but the report is usually issued to your nursing regulatory body. Now, keep in mind that when you fill that form, to an extent, you have divulged information in terms of how long you've practiced and all those things, your years of education, and Nursing and Midwifery Council is also corroborating your license and all that. Okay, so you have NNAS, you have NMCN, and all these other things going on. But basically, at the end of the day, NNAS, WES, ICAS, whatever regulatory body you choose to use, is not the final decision. They will not be the ones to tell you that you are okay to write the exam. They only issue the report to your regulatory body, and your regulatory body decides if you need to go ahead to write the NCLEX or do otherwise. Okay? I'm taking the time to explain all of this to you so that you can better appreciate where you are in the journey at every step of the way. When I evaluated my license, I evaluated for both the LPN and the RN. And when my report came back, I was told that my registered nursing education was not comparable to the Canadian standard, but my LPN was. And so I was able to write the LPN exam and bridge for RN. Now, keep in mind that when they say it is not comparable, they have not told you that you cannot work as a registered nurse. That's not what they're saying. They're saying you can work as a registered nurse, but you have to meet a certain condition, which would then be whatever it is the province has suggested, either a transition to practice or a bridging, or they can tell you write the exam, but you have only one try, meaning like if you write the NCLEX and you fail, then you fall back to writing or doing the bridging. Different things apply in different ways. Okay, I've put together like a guide, but I'm still trying to put it together. But in the interim, this is what is required if you are moving from Nigeria. That is my reference point because I am a Nigerian trained registered nurse, but I would like to think that that is what applies to many internationally educated nurses in terms of how they verify their license from their home country to the regulatory body. Now, having said that, I also need you to understand that this journey is usually not one size fits all. So what applies to me in the province that I choose is not what would apply to you in another province. I might have been told to do a bridging. You might have been told you do not need a bridging. So do not compare your journey to somebody else's journey. And that is what I mean by it is not a linear journey. It is not a straightforward journey. People have different paths that they take to get to the eventual goal that they are trying to reach. So don't get carried away by that. What applies in province A is not what applies in province B. I really hope that this video has helped to shed more light on what is required. The other thing that I also wanted to mention is as much as you work on your licensure, you also need to work on your immigration. Your licensure, which is the regulatory body, gives you the license to practice as a nurse after you have written the NCLEX and passed it. But it does not give you the legal right to stay in the country to practice as a nurse. That's where it gets tricky, and that's why you have to also approach your immigration alongside. Here is where we talk about getting into the express entry pool, and if you feel like your scores are not enough, then you can do the provincial nomination. If you want me to talk about that, I think I already addressed something like that earlier. It's somewhere down below in my video. You would find it there, where I talk about getting into the express entry pool, trying to do French if you can to boost your scores, and applying to provinces. That is what we call the provincial nominee program, because when the province gives you an invitation to apply and you accept it and go through all the processes, at the end of the day you do get 600 points, nomination points, which you can add to what you had in your express entry pool initially, and you can take it from there. So essentially, your immigration is as important as your licensure. Treat both of them the same way, and I will see you in my next one. See you guys.